I have now been a nomad for 10 months, mostly living in timeshares, sometimes in hotels, and in just a few days, I will be boarding a reposition cruise, so I'll be on a ship for almost 2.5 weeks. But a few weeks ago, I spent the night in my car. It's not something I had planned to do, and in this video, I'm going to share why I ended up sleeping in my car and how I figured out where I would sleep in my car, and then some cool insights and lessons that I learned from the experience. If you're new to my channel, my name is Debbie Morton, and almost 2 years ago, my husband unexpectedly passed away. And shortly after he passed, I realized I didn't like living in this big house that we had together, and I didn't know where I wanted to move to. And I had a whole bunch of timeshare points that were banked, and so I made a decision to sell everything that I own and just travel around the world until I could figure out where I would establish my next home. Everything I own right now is in a tiny little storage unit in Phoenix. I think the storage unit is 3 by 3 by 4. It houses most of my photos, just a few sentimental items, or it is in the trunk of my car. And yes, all of that stuff really does fit in my car. And even 10 months later, I have way too much stuff. I'm still trying to get rid of things. If you would care to follow along with me as I share insights and my journey through grief, as I share different travels around the world and some of the different experiences that I encounter being a solo nomad traveler. And also, I do have a home-based business that I can work from anywhere, and I do give insights around how you can create a business so that you can have a life of freedom as well. If you'd like to be a part of my community, follow in my journeys, be notified next time I post a video, just hit that subscribe button and like this video. And as always, please feel free to leave any comments below. I will respond and answer them. So here's what happened and why I ended up spending the night in my car. Normally, I am staying in timeshares anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks at a time, and I will drive in between timeshares. And when I drive, I will usually drive like 5 hours a day, and I don't book my hotel until I'm sitting in the parking lot because I want to make sure that it's a safe area and there's places close by that I can grab a bite to eat. So on this occasion, I had just come back from Mexico, and what I do when I travel international is I typically will leave my car in a hotel parking lot. They are cheaper than long-term airport parking, and I was going to be in Mexico for a month. So I parked my car at a hotel that offers long-term parking. It's usually like a couple bucks a day, maybe $3 a day. So another advantage of this is I can spend the night in the hotel the day before I leave and either shuttle or Uber to the airport, which is usually only a mile or two away. And I can stay in that same hotel when I get back if I'm too tired to continue driving. So on this occasion, I had spent the night at a hotel in Tampa, and I did make a huge mistake in where I parked, and I'll share that with you. It's kind of funny, actually. And I guess, kind of glad it happened. But I parked my car at a hotel in Tampa, and I spent the night. It was $140 on February 13th. And then I went to Mexico, and I spent a month in Mexico. And I came back, and my flight was to arrive around 11 p.m. So I didn't book the hotel for my return, just in case there was any flight delays. I got back around 11 p.m. and here's the mistake I made. The Uber driver and I had a good laugh over this one. I parked under a tree. And if you're ever parking long term, here's the lesson. Don't park under a tree. My car was covered in pollen. It's springtime in Florida. It was covered in pollen and these little leafy flowery things and bird poo. I didn't even want to touch my car. But it was 11 o'clock at night, and here's the thing. The hotel that was $140 on February 13th was now $350. Hello, spring break in Florida. And I didn't want to pay that, and I wasn't tired because I was still on Pacific time, even though I was on the East Coast. So I got in my car, and I looked for another hotel that was in the price range that I typically will spend each night, and I found one. But when I got there, I didn't like the neighborhood, and even like getting out of my car to walk into the hotel, I didn't necessarily feel safe. And it was right now maybe 11:30 at night. So I got in my car and I continued on, and I found another hotel about 20 or 30 minutes away. And here's another valuable lesson. When I arrived at that hotel, it was 5 minutes after midnight. And the room that I was planning to book, I could no longer see it on the app. And what I learned that night, because I typically am in my place of lodging before it gets dark, and now it's 5 minutes after midnight, and the room is no longer available because it's after midnight. It's a new day. I can only book the following night. So I went into the lobby, and that room was going to be $50 more than it would have been 5 minutes ago had I booked it through the app. Now, I have had somebody comment that if I change the time on my phone, I can trick it, but I've never tried that. So in the comments, let me know if you know a way of around being able to book a hotel when it's after midnight. But I didn't want to pay the extra $50. There was a diner across the street. So I went over, grabbed something to eat, and I started making some phone calls. And even the Hotel 6 that was right next door to this diner was $150. And by this time, I was done eating. It's now like 1:30 in the morning or 1 in the morning, and like I'm still not even tired, and I don't want to pay $150 for a Hotel 6 for just a couple of hours of sleep. And I was to check into my next resort in Orlando the following day. I decided, you know what? I'm just going to keep driving toward Orlando. Something will work out. Many years ago, I started following some different nomads on YouTube. And I guess I was just living vicariously through them. One of them in particular, her name is Nikki Delventhal. She lived in a Toyota Prius with her dog Camper at the time. She's now in a different unit, but she lived for several years in a Toyota Prius. And having watched her and some other nomads, I kind of had a good feel for where I might be safe spending the night. I even asked John, by the way, this was before John passed away. I even asked him, would you be interested in putting everything in storage and maybe getting an RV and traveling around the country for a year? And he had zero interest in it whatsoever. So I just lived vicariously through some other nomads. But having watched some other digital nomads, I know that you can sleep in the parking lot of a Cracker Barrel, and I saw a sign for a Cracker Barrel up ahead. However, I'm not self-contained, and so I didn't want to do that. And the following truck stop after Cracker Barrel, there was a Love's truck stop. And I know that you're allowed to sleep in truck stop lots. They're open 24 hours. You can get food, water, restrooms. You can even take a shower. And so I thought, it's 2 in the morning now. I'm just going to go get a few hours of sleep at this Love's truck stop, and then I'll continue on my way in the morning. So here's what's really cool. First of all, I talked to the lady who was at the counter, and she's like, oh yeah, you can sleep. And if you sleep on that side over there, it's probably quieter. You won't hear the semis coming and going. And so I drove around that area where she talked about, and there was a sheriff's car. The sheriff wasn't in it, but there was a sheriff's car parked there, and there was an empty spot right next to the sheriff's car. And so I thought, well, this looks like a safe place to park. So I parked next to the sheriff's car, and I grabbed a blanket out of my trunk, put my seat back, curled up in a ball, and I slept like a baby from 2 until 8 in the morning. I I can't believe how well I slept. I felt totally safe. And I guess I probably felt safe not only because I was next to a sheriff's car, but I still had my car completely covered in bird poo because there was no place to get it washed in between 11 at night and when I landed at the truck stop at 2 in the morning. So I slept like a baby. And here's just a couple of insights that I gained from this experience. The first one is whatever you're hoping to achieve in life, or if you're on the road or in business, when you follow the lead of someone who has gone before you, you get to learn from the mistakes and the lessons that they share. And I'm grateful that I had followed a few different digital nomads on YouTube even before John had passed away, and especially once I knew that I was going to be living this lifestyle. Even though I didn't plan on sleeping in my car, I knew that it might happen someday, so I did watch videos around it, and it gave me the insight of where to sleep. So when you follow those who have gone before you, you get to learn from their lessons, and this was a perfect example. And finally, as we go through life, business, even just vacations, there are roadblocks and things that come up that we don't plan for. Learn to still live in gratitude. Keep a mind that's open to everything and attached to nothing. I did not anticipate that the hotel, when I returned 1 month later, would be more than double the price of when I left. And then driving to another hotel that was in kind of a neighborhood that I didn't want to spend a night. And then arriving at another hotel 5 minutes after the cutoff to be able to get the rate that I was hoping to get. And yet I was never fearful. I just knew that it would work out, that if I stayed calm and thought outside the box, open to different possibilities, that the answer would reveal itself. And it did. And I had an amazing night sleeping in my car. I felt safe. I was empowered by it. I know that in the future I won't fear it or have any anxiety around it. I'm not going to seek it out on a daily basis, but you know, it really was an awesome experience. And so with that, once again, if you got value from this video, I invite you to hit subscribe. You'll be notified anytime I post another video, and I welcome you to be a part of my community, and let's go travel the world.